Hi, I'm Shaka Hislop, and you're here at Extra Time TV.
Hello, everyone. The Euros are finally done. Italy are now the champions. It's going to Rome, folks. James, we were talking about this. We had our match review, folks. You can check it out and see what we were saying. James, everybody thought it was going home. That was a chant. All the fans in England are now really sad because the stage was set, James. It really looked like if the football romantics, which was mostly the English in this case, thought that they were going to win. But eventually, in the end, Italy came out champions in the shootout. So, James, before we get into the details of this, let me get your initial reaction.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I think we said from day one that Italy were the team to beat. And I think all bar probably about 25 to 30 minutes in the first half, they were, in my opinion, the better team. But I think England, they put in a good shift. Southgate has to come up with, you've got to give him a lot of credit for how they played in the first half, especially. They made a lot of changes to obviously counteract the Italian team. But it was an excellent game. It had me on the edge of my seat, obviously, from the first minute to the last penalty. And it's sad to see a game won this way, but that's football. So I enjoyed it. And Italy are champions, yeah.
Yes. And, England started off really positive. It seems as if Italy was a little bit asleep. With the wide play, one wing back passing to the other wing back, and Luke Shaw, scoring the opening goal in the second minute, which was one of the fastest goals, if not the fastest goal in Euro finals history. Our statisticians can check that for us. So England started off with that first goal. Gareth Southgate went with the three centre backs to two wide players, basically five at the back, and played what we expected him to play. What was your thought about England's opening start?
I thought, as I say, I've got to give a lot of credit to Southgate. As I say, the changes he made, they really looked very assured in the first 25 minutes. I thought, we spoke about it in our show, actually. I think I told you, I thought Trippier should play, especially to counteract, Insigne, or Chiesa, whoever goes to that side. But I did not see them playing Shaw and him, which to me was a masterclass, at the beginning. And Shaw took his goal so well. I think the majority of Premier League strikers would be happy with that finish, It was a great ball, across and a great finish. If I want to be critical, I could probably say from a goalkeeping point of view, Donnarumma looked as if, he didn't set himself, He got caught out in a sense a little bit, kind of beat his near post, but it was a great finish. England had, a lot of nice play at that point, and I was starting to worry from Italy's point of view. I think there was a few chances in the first 25 minutes, and I was thinking, Italy could be two down here. And then like a switch clicked, and Italy started to play, and they gradually started to play in little waves, and then he started to get the passes. I thought Insigne, he blew hot and cold for a lot of the first half and into the second half. But we know the quality that Italy has, and eventually it did shine through. Chiellini and Bonucci, what a partnership. That's all I can say. These two guys, especially at the age Chiellini is, and some of those tackles he made, for example, in Sterling, were nothing short of magnificent.
Yes, that centre-back defensive duo is amazing. People who follow Serie A would not be surprised, but for the global fans, it was a reminder of, what Italy can produce. And, let's take a quick look at Italy. Mancini and his men started with his, we knew he was going to go with the 4-3-3. And, unfortunately, Spinazzola, key player, was not there. We spoke about this before in the other games as well. And, Emerson stepped in. What do you think about Italy? That first couple of minutes, I know you touched on it already. Donnarumma looked like he was almost asleep. It looked like Italy kind of were caught off guard. And yes, I think I agree with you positionally. I think he was a little bit off. I thought at least positionally he would have been nearer to that post. But they conceded a goal, and it looked like they were struggling. But to Mancini's credit, they didn't immediately desperately try to get the equalizer. I saw that they kind of started to prod along, and they were almost patient to the point as a neutral. I was like, these guys, do they know that they're losing? And eventually they started to pass the ball around and play out the half and ended it at 0-1. And of course, we know in the second half, they came out and just, as you said, like a switch came on and they started to dominate, got the equalizer. What do you think about Mancini and his tactical approach?
Well, I think, again, we spoke about it in the pre-match show. I think the two weaknesses, in my opinion, were Emerson, excuse me, and Di Lorenzo. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know, something catching my throat there, but it could be the trophy on the way home. But so Di Lorenzo and Emerson, in my opinion, were the weak links, when we spoke about the game. And I think England tried to capitalise on that early on, and it worked for periods of time. I mean, Sterling was looking very good. Mason Mount dropped into pockets, and Harry Kane kept doing what Harry Kane does. He kept dropping off and pulling Chiellini out, which meant Jorginho had to sometimes drop back. So I mean, everything we said before the game was right. I mean, the one probably good thing for Italy in the first half was Chiesa, to me, really, really run the show. He tried to pull his team, get things going on the right-hand side of the field. But I think in the first half, Italy will, and Mancini himself will say that they were not at their best. But halftime came, they were able to make changes, and obviously the rest history. So, yeah.
I mean, of course, in hindsight, now we could look back at the game. Obviously, Italy are champions, and everybody in England was praising Southgate, and I think he deserves a lot of kudos. But I think he got it wrong in the final in some cases, where I think he started off okay, and I think he got shown up tactically. I think Mancini showed his experience a little bit more, and the versatility of this Italian team rather than individuals. I think he knew exactly the type of players he brought. There was a lot of faith in those players. And to be honest, I think if Italy was a little more clinical up front, the game could have ended a long time ago. And this is something we spoke about all the way at the beginning of the tournament with Sandro Grande, folks, and and James as well. And I think the lack of a really great finisher kind of saved England, because Mancini and his men really turned it on in the second half. And obviously England tried to do the counter-attack thing. A lot of people are criticizing Southgate for not changing gears, to be honest, or having a plan B. What do you think about the criticisms of people saying Southgate, was too defensive?
I mean, I think there's times to be, defensive and times to be attacking. And I think this is where we've seen a lot of teams. I mean, they play in the 4 moments of the game. A lot of the teams, that's how the game's played. But they have an attacking, formation and a defensive formation, in a sense, for each phase of the game. So what I think Southgate probably could have done better is, I think he doesn't know his best starting 11, and I think that's the big problem he's had. To me, he used Grealish very gingerly. He did not use Sancho. I mean, to me, I can't remember Sancho coming on in the tournament except for the penalties, today. I can't remember. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought Saka, as I say, is one player for England that stood out. He did very well. But, I mean, I'll give you an example. In this game here, I thought Rice and Phillips were average at best today. And he's got guys like Jordan Henderson there who could come in. I mean, again, maybe there was injuries there hanging over or tiredness, and then you've even got Rashford. Their team is so good. So it's a difficult one. I mean, because I was even thinking, do England keep Gareth Southgate to go into the World Cup? I mean, it's a year away, but has he done enough? I mean, to get to the semi-finals is an achievement. But should you have done more with the players you have? And I think, to an extent, yes, because there's more pound for pound stars in that English team than there is in the Italian team. I mean, and I don't feel bad to say that to the Italian fans. I mean, let's be honest. But what Italy have is they have a clear plan, in my opinion. They did not deviate from that plan. I mean, to me, Southgate had to keep tinkering game to game to get the results, whereas Mancini knew how he was playing, and this is how he played, and he won it playing it that way. So, I mean, we saw a lot of things. Now, don't take any credit away from Gareth Southgate. He has went up in my estimations, but in my opinion, this England team should have had enough quality to go win it.
Yes, and let's talk about the stats here. Now, usually it's the other way around, but Italy had 62% possession if you're going on all stereotypes. I actually have a video about that, folks, making fun of those stereotypes. I'll put a link below. Check it out. See if it's true. See if it's not. I know it's true. And England had 38%. So, that's quite a contrast, and it indicates what you were talking about, how Southgate approached this game. We knew he was going to do this. He tried, and this is the thing about coaches. You live or die by your decisions. Literally, you can change in one game. He was being praised as tactically different, courageous for being different from the usual English coaches. Now they've lost. The knives are coming out. As you mentioned, a lot of people out there, you can let me know what you think. Do you think Gareth Southgate should be the man to carry England into the next World Cup? It's just a couple of months away, folks. It's not that far. So, they're going to have to get things in order. There's qualifiers and so on. So, England has to make a decision. This is a guy that got them to the semi-finals and now the finals in two major competitions. It was not great football. So this is where they're going to have to decide. In the past, they tried to go for attacking coaches. They tried Capello. They tried others. and it just didn't seem to work yet. Southgate. So, we'll see, James. We'll see. Let's talk about the penalties, James. Let me pull these penalties up real quick. How dramatic was it? You're a goalkeeper. I would love your opinion. I said if it goes to penalties, Italy will always be the favorite because Donnarumma is one of my personal favorites right now. And unfortunately, this is another tactical thing I'd like to ask you, James. Rashford and Sancho came on with a couple seconds before the final whistle blew. A lot of people saying they should have been on before. Let's talk about that before we get to the penalty shootout. What do you think about the use of Gareth Southgate's substitutions?
Well, this is one of my big problems I had today. I think to bring a player on for a penalty shootout, in my opinion, is a no-no. You should be giving them some game time, So, for example, if you have thoughts of them coming on to take a penalty, you should be bringing them on to get. Because you cannot strike a ball cold, let's say, right? First of all, from a physiological point of view. Now, could England have won in extra time probably with those players on? Maybe, You don't, to me, just bring on a player for a penalty kick. And the other thing with that is they brought these players in, they missed the penalties, and I know don't want to talk about that necessarily, but there was other players in the field, in my opinion, that should have been stepping up first. So, and this is where I think it comes back to Southgate not knowing his best 11. Because like I said, I think if Grealish was any other nationality in the world, he would be starting. And you could probably even say if he was Spanish, he would be starting. So it's not even, I'm not even talking about small nations. He would probably start at some of the big nations. Sancho would probably be starting. Rashford would probably be starting. Now, England have that choice. That's it. Obviously, that it comes to. But I think the fact that Southgate didn't know his best 11 and the tinkering, and when you think about it this way, think about it from a player's point of view. If you're going to step up and take a penalty, when you know in your mind you're not a starting player, there's the whole psychological thing that comes into it too. So, yes, you want to win it for your country, but you're putting a hell of a lot of pressure on these guys to come on and take a penalty.
Yes, and a lot of people were sending IMs and comments about the use of the penalty kick takers. As you rightfully said, you kind of touched what I was going to talk on anyway, so I'm not going to repeat it. But a lot of people are saying those guys should have come on a lot quicker, at least, because their pace, especially Rashford and Sancho, it's Italian defense. While they're great, we mentioned this in our preview. One of the weaknesses I thought Southgate would have exploited was the fact that Italy plays an attacking style of football, and they would have worked perfectly in a counter-attacking style of football, and they didn't use them at all. They were completely underutilized in this tournament. And then also the fact that the choice of penalty kick takers, I think Sterling, for those of you who follow Manchester City, does not really have a great record with penalty kicks. It's not bad compared to Gabriel Jesus, who's awful. But, I thought the senior players should have really stepped in, and they put all that pressure on the young guy, Saka. So, let's just recap real quick. Rashford, Sancho, and Saka missed. Rashford and Sancho were brought on to take the penalties. So obviously Southgate had some sort of plan. Maybe they practiced in the training sessions that he believed, okay, these guys were confident enough to take penalties. It didn't work. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as I said, I think first of all, one of my points I made was obviously Jordan Henderson came off, I think, for was it Rashford, I think, to take, one of the substitutes that came on. Now, to me, Henderson is a captain, himself. He's been captain England before. He's been captain of his club side, So to me, he's an experienced player. So he's somebody I would have had to take a penalty, There was other guys in the field, like, for example, I know, obviously, Kane took one. To me, Sterling, I think they were saying he was probably the fifth player to take it. He didn't have to take it, because of the miss. But there was, and even also the other thing you have to think about as a coach is who takes the first penalty. To me, if I'm picking a team, yes, you want somebody strong to go first, but the inexperience, let's say, so if Saka's taking a penalty, to me, who's the youngest in the squad, I would probably have him second, So they have a chance to kind of recover and assess if he misses. Now, I would have probably had Rashford then, if he is going to take it, one of the latter ones, because we know he can take a penalty. So to me, not just who's taking the penalty, but where they fall on that five to take the penalty is key. Maguire put in one of the best penalties I've seen in a long time. But did he need to be, I think he was second, I can't remember. but did he need to be there, or could you save him near the end? So a lot of these things come into it. I don't think it was the right choice of who to take the penalties, but I think Southgate put himself in that predicament because of the substitutes he brought on, obviously, And we all know that, let's be honest, with the exception of Jorginho missing for Italy, which is surprising, we knew Italy were going to be pretty composed. So I'm kind of disappointed in Southgate's choices. You can't blame the players, and that's one thing I will always say. You cannot blame the players because they had the guts to go up there and to take the penalty. And at the end of the day, a penalty shootout, and from my experience as being a goalkeeper, it favours the goalkeeper more. If you make one save, you're a hero, no matter what. So, and that's what it came down to. Donnarumma got the saves. I mean, Pickford got one as well, but obviously Italy won. But I think Southgate should have thought about his penalties probably more. And it makes me think, did he plan?
Well, that's a very good question, because I was wondering. I had these three problems with how Southgate approached this game. I think when they got the 1-0 up, when Mancini adjusted, he forced them to play away. They didn't like to play, which is kudos to Mancini, which we'll talk about Italy real quick. And then in the end, I don't think England has the players to play that defense for 90 minutes style of football that Southgate is trying to do against quality teams. I think there was a little, I would say, a sense of I should say, why is the word eluding me right now? But I think because of the bracket England faced, I think there was a misdirected belief about their ability to shut teams down. I mean, let's be honest. They played at Denmark, which eventually ran out of gas, and it turned out to be a controversial decision to get them in the final. People are still talking about it. That's a whole other show by itself. They played, Ukraine. They played a Germany that's in a mess right now, and easily that game could have been differently if Muller scored that goal. So I think that approach, I understand what Southgate is trying to do, but I don't think Maguire and those guys and Rice are the guys to really do such a thing. I think it showed eventually, because when Italy started running at those players, James, direct runs, and I guess kudos to Mancini for figuring that out, because as you said, in the first 20 minutes or so, it looked like Italy was not finding any real clear openings. And I thought that they would play not really defensively, but they would counter. But they seemed like they were scared, and Italy just took advantage of the game. And in the end, I think Southgate got it wrong. I think he got it wrong tactically. At least 20 minutes onwards, he did not adjust, and I think it showed in the end that Mancini was tactically more flexible and more prepared than Southgate. And let's talk about Italy a little bit. We were talking about England. They had a difficult side of the bracket. They had difficult teams to play. They were not very much fancied coming into the tournament. I mean, I watched Serie A, so I said they were one of my dark horses. Turns out they won. But, when they started to play in the tournament, people had to take notice. And let's be honest, they did not have an easy route to the final. And I think, to be honest, with all things considered, I think Italy are deserved champions. What do you think?
Totally agree with you. And I think a lot of it comes down to Roberto Mancini, because, I mean, you were just saying something about squad selection. Squad selection for a tournament is so important, because Mancini was able to have cover for not just different positions, but different ways you would have to change the game. So, for example, if you have to sit in, he had players you could bring in. He had players that could cover. He had players that could change, the style, And that's what England did not have. England, if you looked at their subs, had all offensive players, barring a few, or quick players. Italy had a blend of both. I mean, to me, I feel sorry in a sense for Locatelli. He didn't get more time, but he showed that he was an excellent player in the time he got. Cristante came in and did a great job in this game as well, and he did a good job. Bernardeschi came in and played multiple positions in the tournament, I mean, Emerson, for example, may not have expected to play much football, and then obviously the injury to Spinazzola. And I think even although he's not as good going forward, I thought he actually had a pretty good game. So I think a lot of it comes down to Mancini's team selection and how he built the team. And I think that's a very good point for the coaches out there. You're building your team. It's not just, like England, you've got the best 22 players. Because, yeah, that's great. You have 22 players that can run. But do you have 5 players that can help when your back's against the wall? And that's where you have to have that mix. And Italy had it. And we saw it through the tournament. there was some games that they didn't play that well. They got through it. I mean, so I mean that it's a good lesson for a lot of coaches, for a lot of fans out there to see, what is needed in a championship winning squad.
Yep, and I'm going to fan some flames here. Obviously, there was a narrative heading in, the English Premiership is the best league in the world. They have the best players. So it was only a matter of time before they get to the final. Everybody knows my stance on that. I respectfully disagree with, I think it's the most popular league in the world. But obviously, EPL versus Serie A. A lot of people before the tournament would be like, the usual stereotypes. And Sandro spoke about this. Serie A is outdated. It's old. It's slow. However, while they may not have the financial power of the Premiership, I think there have been some changes in Serie A in the last couple of years that manifested with this national team. The style of playing the league is very different. It's very this attack-minded, 3 at the back. In fact, the only team that really relied heavily on defensive tactics was my team, which is Inter Milan. And but I think
it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I mean, that same way of playing. I mean, let's be honest. If you look at the Premier League, if you were to count the top 20 players in the Premier League, how many English players would be in that top 20?
Very good point. Very good.
If you were to look at it in Italy, there would be a good chunk of Italian players in there, So, I mean, yes, you could say maybe the Premiership is, if not the best, but you've got Spanish players, you've got Egyptian players, for example, Salah, you've got all these players from all over the world playing there, from Brazil, but not, I mean, somebody said to me the other day, would Kane be in the top 5? I mean, it's a toss-up, because there is other very good players who are not English there, so it's an argument based on the fact that obviously the Premiership has so much players from abroad. As I say, I don't believe Italy has that in as much numbers, because I'll give an example. When I found out Insigne was playing for Napoli, it shocked me, because to me, he's a guy who should be playing with the top 2 teams in the league. I mean, yes, Napoli, they sometimes challenge, but they're in, let's say they're a top 16, Yeah. Sometimes they do, sometimes they drop in and out. But to see players like him playing for clubs that he believes in, it's a club of his, he loves the club because of the whole Maradona thing, and, he was there for a long time. But that just shows you the strength of the league as well.
Yep, and both Roy Hodgson and Fabio Capello brought this up when they were around, and a lot of the English media, ripped them to shreds about it. You're going to have to dig up in the archives, folks, to find that. Where Capello was the first guy, actually Hodgson was the first guy to bring it up, and he said, listen, what makes the English, this is not the exact quote, of course, but he highlighted the lack of English players in the Premiership, and saying that he said that, I think at the time, it could be changed now, that under 30% of, the entire thing was English players. And it does not help the national team. Of course, the media, and we saw it, James. We saw it leading up to the tournament. They were the tournament was already won for England as far as they were concerned. Now, obviously, analysts and football people and the players probably were not thinking that. So I'm not going to say that the players were arrogant, but I think all these little things add up. And once again, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Yes, they got to a final. Yes, they got to a semi-final before. But it's going to raise that question, why is it that the quote-unquote world-class English players, and as Roy Keane said, I think it's probably like 2011, which is a long time ago, but he said, one of the problems with English media is that the careless use of the word world-class. And that's a question that's going to resurface once more, because essentially it came down to Italians versus England. On paper, according to what we are told, England should have won easily. However, we've seen differently throughout the tournament. It was not a one-off game. They played better football. They were a better team. And, these guys are not, global superstars. Depending on who you ask. If you ask somebody in Italy, they'll probably say differently. So, that's a whole lot of philosophical debate that is being raised once more because of this final, because it transcends the game, folks. So, James, just to end things off, we spoke about both teams. Moving forward, do you think that this Italian team, yes, we know they deserve to win. Roberto Mancini had a great tournament. This is a sign of great things to come, or this is just a one-off cycle that was great for now and that's it?
Well, I'll say this. they will be able to carry this into the World Cup. We know it's, less than a year away, just about, So yes, they will carry that into the World Cup. They'll be confident that they can go do something in the World Cup. My concern would be the two centre-backs, obviously, are, to me, the best, in the world virtually at the moment. And this is where you come back to that world-class statement. Mm-hmm. Would you say Maguire's world-class, but then what's Chiellini then? Because Chiellini is leaps and bounds above him. But anyway, that's the next story.
Yep.
But they could potentially lose, obviously, those two centre-backs long-term, Do they have able bodies to cover that? So that's one concern I would have if I am Mancini long-term. But I think, as I say, they can go to the World Cup and really do damage with this team. So I think, the future is definitely rosy because there's enough younger players there to pull them through. They just probably need to find two. It's not just two good centre-backs. It's two good centre-backs with that bond, that partnership. And that's what they'll have to find in the coming few seasons.
I think they found one. So they have to, Mancini's going to have to solve that other side of the puzzle. Bastoni, the young Bastoni, right. He's top class, man. He's part of the Inter Milan squad. So I think once that, Mancini obviously clearly has a plan, and we'll see how he solves that puzzle. So, James, this was quite a journey for us. I think you and I are probably going to take a rest, but we can't take a rest because in our region, the CONCACAF Gold Cup has begun. I'm still resting from the Copa America final, now the Euro finals. James, any final words before we sign off on this particular topic?
Well, I think we've got some final words from our good old friend Sandro there, because I know he's having a great night. So there's nothing I want to say, but I think there's a lot that he wants to say.
Yes. So let's hear what Sandro has to say, folks.
Hey, James. Hey, Andre. As you can see, we're partying in Montreal. Plenty of Italians here. There's thousands and thousands of people on the street. Fireworks, bells, horns. The Italian community came out in numbers. So I won't be joining you on the podcast, but all I can say is Forza Azzurri. They had a master class today. Totally dominated the game, except for the first 20 minutes. And I'm glad they won. England put up a good fight. And speak to you soon. Forza Azzurri.
So as you can see, folks, Sandro, who has been our designated Italian analyst, is enjoying himself. He's having a good time. Congratulations, Sandro. It's good to see you having a good time. And, Sandro's unapologetically an Italian supporter. And, his insight, considering the conditions he was in, James, was still very good for us. So, folks, let us know what you think in the comment section below. What do you think about this performance of this Italian team, this new Italian team, the new way they're playing? Their performance over the Three Lions. Everybody thought that England should have won. Let us know what you think England should have done to win this game. And basically, break that curse that has eluded them since all the way back in the 60s. I hate to say it, but I think it's obviously official. It's not coming home for some time now. Will it come home next time? The plot continues. So James, once again, it's been a wonderful tournament. Just a quick conclusion. What was your thoughts on the Euros in general?
Absolutely loved it. I think, especially during this COVID time, it definitely reignited a lot of passion. It gave us a little bit of hope that I think a lot of people needed during this time. And I think, albeit bar a few instances, I think we saw some bad instances actually after the game with England fans. I hope, a lot of people keeping safe, because sometimes when bad things happen, you can be very disappointed. So I hope there's nobody hurt there. But albeit bar, some small bad things, it's been a fantastic tournament. Some great goals, some wonderful performances. And I think there's a lot of new stars born from this tournament. So very excited about the future, and I really enjoyed it.
Yes. And of course, I know a lot of football romantics were hoping that England would win it. It basically was set. It was at home. They had the fans. And unfortunately, it was in heartbreak. But congratulations for the Italians and the fans of Italy. Enjoy your moment. I definitely enjoyed mine with Argentina. You could check out on Instagram and saw how nuts I was. But James, we have other things to talk about. The Gold Cup is coming up. The Gold Cup is going on. So stay tuned for those videos. And obviously, there'll be lots of transfer rumors and talk going on. So we've had an amazing couple weeks of football. I don't think we've ever had so much football ever in a long time at the same time. and it's continuing now, folks. So once again, like, comment, subscribe, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, send your comments because we're going to continue doing these things. James, as always, it has been a pleasure, a great tournament. And folks, thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more. Just a reminder, everyone, for more episodes with Shaka Hislop, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, interviews, and content.